Discussion, it's the heart of the matter. Serving up opinions on a silver platter. It's a grind. The information getting, bringing your got so hot you'll be sweating. These two dudes with attitudes will put you in the mood for a plate full of brain food. So don't delay, my daughter, my son. Visit the buffet called Promoter 101.
Tiny and Luke would like to remind you that a clean desk is a sign of a cluttered desk drawer. Promoter 101.
Welcome back to Promoter 101. It's episode 233, or the fourth show back since the reboot. With me, as always, my good friend Connor and Luke Pierce. Hey, guys.
What's going on, Dan? Great to be back.
We got a lot of good stuff in this episode. I'm excited to get into it.
We're joined today by Tixr's Sara Mertz for a deep dive into her views on the ticketing business, music business in general, and her firsthand success in an exciting space that she's in.
Plus, we'll catch up with Richard Andersen for a peek under the hood of Advantage Training. Now, Richard is a veteran of the venue space, so it should be really interesting to hear what they're bringing to market.
Promoter 101 starts right now.
Now, their opinions may have changed, but not the fact that they're always right. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
There are over 225 past episodes of Promoter 101 available for your education and entertainment needs at promoter101.com.
Feel free to hit us up with your ideas and questions at steiny@promoter101.net.
Of course, we're all over online. Come and join us in the conversation. On X, this show is Promoter 101. I'm at W. Luke Pierce, and Dan is at The Jew. Over on Instagram, the show is at Steiny Promoter 101. Dan is at Dan Presents, and I'm at W. Luke Pierce.
It's pretty obvious they never really grew up. They only learned how to act in public. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
Luke, shall we talk about what's going on in the industry? I hear there's some interesting things going on out there.
There certainly is, Dan. Let's get into it. All right, folks, buckle up, because what just happened over at Oakview Group this past month isn't just a scandal. It might be the seismic event in the business of live entertainment that we were looking for this summer. Let's talk about Tim Leiweke. Let's talk about DOJ indictments. Let's talk about bid rigging and $1 million question. Has the golden boy of venue development just burned down part of his own empire? On July 10th, the U.S. Department of Justice officially indicted Tim Leiweke, the co-founder and recently departed CEO of Oakview Group. The charge? Bid rigging and wire fraud tied to the construction and ticketing contracts of the Moody Center in Austin, Texas, a public venue. The DOJ says that Leiweke rigged the bidding process to steer the venue's exclusive ticketing contract to Ticketmaster. In exchange, they argue that kickbacks, sweeteners, and the $20 million upfront payment from Ticketmaster and yearly quote-unquote sponsorship fees were all tied to ticket volume. Not marketing, not naming rights, just volume. Within 72 hours of that news breaking, Leiweke resigned from all OVG leadership roles. There wasn't a press conference, there wasn't a victory lap, just a simple statement from an attorney. The DOJ press release says otherwise. They've already signed a non-prosecution agreement with Oakview Group and Legends, which cooperated in the investigation leading to this indictment. So in other words, the feds are moving on, Dan. They're focusing on individual accountability, and Tim's name seems to be circled in red ink. But this isn't just a niche story, because Oakview Group is one of the most powerful infrastructure players in global live music. Unless you've been under a rock or sleeping for the last 5 years, you've seen that they built or renovated dozens of arenas, from Climate Pledge in Seattle, UBS, the Moody Center, the Co-op Live in Manchester, and many more. Their model is based around building the building, running the building, helping to pick ticketing platforms, and then profiting off of sponsorships and nearly every other piece. So if it turns out that this is fraudulent at the root, this isn't just about Oakview Group. It's about an entirely vertically integrated system. Live Nation, Ticketmaster, booking, marketing, access, money flow, all those things. Now, there's been plenty of reports that have come out that say the government's case hasn't been that strong, including an article from our buddy Dave Brooks in Billboard. But if the DOJ is pressing serious charges about this, I have to imagine that more subpoenas are coming, more venues could be reviewed, and maybe the exploration of Live Nation Ticketmaster could be something that is explored again as well. So for all you watching from the sidelines, venue operators, agents, independent promoters, this is it's a regulatory window. It's a chance to ask hard questions about exclusivity, price setting, and who really benefits when new arenas and new venues open. But make no mistake, Tim Leiweke is a legend. He helped shape AEG. He built OVG into a global force. But if these allegations hold, his name might become shorthand for the exact kind of anti-competitive behavior that DOJ is now pledging to root out of the live industry. It's messy. It's political. Dan, what do you think about this?
It's early days. Everybody deserves their day in court. We'll see how it all plays out. It's a lot. I'm still taking it all in. I'm curious to see where it goes.
It'll be an interesting time frame. I think that certainly having an enthusiastic attorney general in Texas helping along with these charges does bring a case from a DOJ perspective to a larger case that might explore some of these regulatory things. Seems like everybody on all sides are making moves to kind of defend themselves from political attacks, because this is a hot button issue in Washington and beyond. But I'm really interested to see where this goes. And I'm surprised, honestly, that DOJ is taking a shot at one of the major players like this.
Let's face it, work is overrated. Conference room. Tune in to Steiny and Luke and pretend you're productive together.
It would not be an episode of Promoter 101 without tweets of the week. So let's see what Dan came up in socials in this past month. When even hearing someone's name and it just puts you in a bad mood.
Yeah, oddly, I have 2 tweets about the same person on this. Not everyone can be your favorite, I guess, Luke. Not everyone.
You care to share any names, Dan?
Let's just say he's not in my entourage.
Not making your Christmas card list?
Nope.
How about this one? Quoted somebody here, Dan. I have suffered too much rejection over the years. Why go begging for it? Quote from Mr. Stanley Tucci.
He's got some good books out there. I'm really enjoying the Tooch right now. Looking forward to Devil Wears Prada 2. Excited.
Are they bringing it back?
They're bringing it back. The full cast is coming back. It's going to be good. And I got a chance to see Devil Wears Prada on West End with my daughter this last year. I was a fan.
The Tooch delivers always, man. Go read his cookbooks.
He's got something going on there. Good book about his diary of what he's eating. Actually, Stanley Tucci, What I Ate in 1 Year. It was a good read. I'm enjoying it. It's just a journal of what he ate while he was on set in Italy. Pretty cool. I recommend.
Dan's reading list. Go check it out. Promoter101.net. This might be the first mention of Stanley Tucci on the podcast. I'm surprised it's taken us over 200 episodes to talk about Stanley Tucci.
I mean, I think we should do an episode on the Tooch.
On the Tooch. Let's get him on. How about this one, Dan? When you play off a date with an artist that you've been counting minutes to be free of.
You're not going to name names, but man, some people just suck to work with.
That'll do it for Tweets of the Week. Make sure you follow Dan for more gems from his mind. He's at the Jew on X.
I've been on X in years, Luke.
Seattle to Maui. Another fun plane ride.
Proof that you can be half asleep and still mildly entertaining. It's Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
We're excited to be joined for this month's feature interview with Tixr's Sara Mertz. She's joining us for a deep dive into her views in the music business in general, plus the successes that she's having in today's ticketing space at the exciting startup Tixr.
Promoter 101 has a spiritual episode just for you. We're here today with Tixr's own Sara Mertz, giving us her philosophies of the way of the world and peace as we know it.
Wow.
So we should leave that. That's kind of fucking funny. I don't know where that came from, but what
That's
the hell?
good introduction. I'll take that.
Sara, we've had you on before, so without going back historically, we'll put in the notes what the last episode is that you joined us on, where we talked about your history and how you found your way to the business. But that was pre-COVID. I remember sitting in a room with you at South by Southwest, maybe 7, 8 years ago,
Crazy.
and having a fun conversation about your history and how you found your way to Eventbrite, which is, I would believe, where you were at the moment. Maybe it was Ticketfly, Eventbrite. It was one or the other.
We called it Ticketfly Eventbrite. It's
Okay.
Eventbrite, Ticketfly, Ticketfly Eventbrite.
The orange thing. Now you're with Tixr. Tell us about Tixr.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we'll go, since you started during COVID, we'll just go to that moment during COVID when suddenly the Eventbrite Ticketfly team was out on the hunt for a job following a mass layoff on a Zoom call, as was the time. And I got an opportunity to look at a lot of options, which was great. Took my time to make a decision. And, I really had to ask myself where I wanted to go in this industry going forward. And, I had some choices where I could take big money offers, knowing that I was going to have a hard time standing behind the integrity of what it was I was bringing to the table. Or I could take the leap and go with a company that I felt like had a really great philosophy, a long-term vision, and technology that I was excited about. So I luckily was in a position to be able to take the leap. And, for me, Tixr is a company that is being smartly run. It's in it for the long term. It thinks about all the different things that you need to build to be a complex ticketing platform that can meet the needs of complex organizers and promoters, and recognize that the only way to do that was going to be to take the time to build all of that. And so, it's been a lean, mean operation from day one. And, when I was looking at companies that had either big investors that were going to want a 5-year out, I lived through an acquisition, I lived through the IPO of Eventbrite. None of that serves the clients. And, if we're talking about my philosophy of this business, it's that I think long term too. And I think about the relationships that I've built and the fact that I want to keep those relationships throughout my career. And so I look at, who's in the world acting with integrity, and I try to align with that.
Okay, so can you give an example of how Tixr acts with integrity that particularly attracted you to them?
Yeah, I think, well, like I said, it's in it for the long term. So rather than getting a bunch of money and trying to get a bunch of market share to get a big valuation as a company, the goal has really been, let's ask our clients what they need from a product perspective, and let's build that. And let's grow the company through word of mouth and through the feedback that we're getting. So that instead of having to listen to shareholders and investors, instead we're actually working with our clients. And to me, I'm selling the platform, right? So when it comes to the integrity piece, it's like I want to stand behind what it is I'm bringing to the table and what I'm sharing with, like I said, these relationships I've built over time. And so being with a company that is so client focused, and looking at how we can help people make more money and help people be successful in their businesses, that that feels in integrity with me.
Okay, now what are some of the things that Tixr offers on their platform that some of the other systems might not?
The technology is extremely solid. We could go through features and functionality. We have an in-platform fan-to-fan reward system. We have built-in, payment plans. We have a waitlisting system that allows people to pre-authorize a ticket purchase prior to a ticket even becoming available or after sellout. It's enabled us to do some really big on sales that have gone to waitlist almost immediately. We pretty much we have a waiting room functionality. We don't necessarily ever need to use it because the system works quickly and fast. A show will sell out. We're able to put those buyers that are still interested in buying, they're able to sign up for the waitlist, put their credit cards in, pre-authorize a sale. We've gone in and done a bot scrub and found various bad actors, refunded those tickets, processed the next tickets online on that waitlist, and that means that the promoter is now making more money and legitimate money, not just the bots that purchase the tickets. So, that's something that's pretty unique. We also have, a lot of things that other independent ticketing companies don't necessarily have. We have some announcements coming of some features that are very exciting that we do have now in product resale that's going to enable, the entire ticketing ecosystem to exist on a single platform. So when you look at it from the perspective of independent ticketing companies, we now have fan-to-fan transfers, we have in-platform resale, we have waitlists, like I told you, we've got rotating QR codes, we've got NFC entry, we've got, delivery options, delayed delivery. That means that now we can say that, if you want to do a fully paperless show on Tixr, you can, and we can control the clients can control their entire ecosystem of that ticket. I don't think there's another independent ticketing company out there that can do all those things, in one platform.
You guys have an equivalent to Platinum and aisle seating?
We do. It's a funny thing because people ask, do you have Ticketmaster Platinum? And it's like, well, it is basically a version of dynamic pricing. We can do a version of Platinum, and we're continuing to iterate on it and hopefully improve upon it with some other ideas that we have in the works right now.
Nice. Okay, so a lot of the independent companies that are out there in ticketing are just set up to do GA, but if you guys have the ability to do all those things, obviously you're doing reserved at a high level.
Absolutely.
That's you guys are built to compete.
We've got season tickets, we've got full on reserved and everything in between.
I just see your name and I like to think that the Tixr Rabbit is somehow involved.
I'd love it if the Tixr Rabbit was involved.
Tixr. It just feels like somehow there's a connection to Trix there. I want it to be so badly.
It's also a 4-letter URL, which, that was one of the first questions I asked. Coming onto Tixr during COVID, I didn't actually meet our CEO in person until a year and a half later because we were all still socially distant. He's a lot taller than I would have expected. And that was one of the first questions I asked was, how'd you get a 4-letter URL?
Tixr. Well, that's enough plugging and shilling the ticketing system. Let's talk about you, your philosophy of the business, your view of it, your space in it. So you've been in ticketing for quite a while now. We've known each other for got to be over a decade now. Most of that time has been
we're coming on 15 years, Dan, I think.
Let's not age ourselves. But you've been in ticketing for a long time now. As much as people talk about that space, it seems like the acquisition of the client to the platform is the most important thing of the process. Because without clients, there is no ticketing system, right? There's no company. But
I would actually disagree. I don't think it's about the acquisition. I think it's about the retention.
Okay.
If you're a company that isn't delivering for your clients, then you have to focus on the acquisition because it's all about trying to get someone to sign up, and maybe you have to write a big check to do that, and then it's a lot of work to get them to stay because if you're not delivering, then that is the work, right? If you have a platform that is helping people make money and making them excited to the point where they're telling other people about it, the calls come in. The acquisition becomes less of the focus. The focus is, okay, let's keep helping people be happy and keep helping, them run their businesses better and keep helping them think strategic around how they're going to make more money. We're in a place, we're talking about the industry right now. You kind of hear it all the time. There's different trends, right? Young people aren't drinking as much. So when you talk about the club level, that starts to, impede revenue. We have people that are massively overpaying for the high level artists, the quote, the Taylor Swifts of the world, not even in quote, the actual Taylor Swifts of the world. They're blowing their wad on these big concerts, and it means that the up and coming artists, having a harder and harder time, selling those tickets, and the promoters and the clubs are having to really reach deep to figure out how to make it work. And that's where you have to start thinking creatively around, VIP upsells and, what kind of experience can I offer people? And that's, where I think it's important to focus the energy. Not just on trying to sell people on the platform. The platform should sell itself.
Okay, and that's fair. I think being able to get somebody on the phone or returning an email from the ticketing company can be a challenge these days. And I think there's a couple ticketing companies, and I'm not going to name names, but getting a return phone call from some of the bigger indie companies can be tricky now. And I think part of the way they got their clients was they gave big advances, and they know their customers can't leave until their clients can't leave until they've at least earned that back, right? So they don't have to have the customer service because they took the money. Yeah. And that's kind of a bummer because at some point the fans have a problem, the venue has a problem, the band has a problem, and the ticketing company usually the piece that needs to solve it. And if they're not going to support the system, that's just bad for the industry.
It is. And, for us, we really take a philosophy of, is Tixr the platform you want? We're not always going to be the best platform for everybody. There's certainly people that I talk to where I'm like, you know what? You don't need a system this complex. You need something more simple. Maybe it's a, first time festival or whatever, where I'll actually direct them elsewhere. For me, if somebody comes to the table and they say, I'm just looking for money, let's just say we're looking for mutually beneficial relationships. We want somebody who understands what we bring to the table and what we do for our clients. And if they're interested in that, they maybe won't take the highest advance offer out there. We play the game like everybody else, but we play it smartly because we don't want people to feel stuck. We want them to feel like they're here by choice, and they're here by choice if they really understand what the platform has to offer for them and they're using it that way.
Long term, you're looking for someone that's going to be a long-term partner and not someone that's going to take the money now and not really care about the system later, right? It's
exactly.
More about somebody that's thinking long-term, as you were talking about.
Yeah, and somebody who feels like they're getting value, right? Everybody looks back on the Ticketfly days with nostalgia. And I think part of that is because they felt seen by Ticketfly. They felt like the platform was, for the mid-level club market especially, the platform it solved a lot of their problems, and it created a community around who they were, and it's like if you can really create value for somebody, that's kind of a life philosophy, if we're talking about kind of who I am as and life over time. I mean, it's how can I create value for the people around me in general. So it goes back to like, if I'm gonna sell a system, I want to believe that the system can work for somebody, and if I am going to build a relationship, I'm going to do it with transparency, and that's why if Tixr's not the right fit, I'm going to tell them, because that's not a good way to have a long-term relationship for at whatever company I'm working at. It's this business is small. I think you have to treat people well.
Well, I think nobody ever lost a client by treating people well, right? Obviously, Andrew Dreskin built something special with Ticketfly, and what now has become the NEVA conference pretty much was the original version of FlyCon, right? It was like everybody coming together, all the indies in one place, but it was this very cool club that Andrew built. Mm-hmm. And that went away when the company went away and then got bought and merged into other things. But it seems like the basis of the NEVA conference is very similar in spirit to what those guys were doing in the early days, as they put all those independent entrepreneurs in one room and, made it a very cool club.
No, I agree. And the danger there was always, the pending acquisition of Ticketfly and whether or not that could maintain.
Definitely an economics lesson on Andrew Dreskin and how he was able to sell 2 ticketing businesses throughout the course of his career.
One of them twice.
Yeah, definitely. Guy is a pioneer at a whole different level, and I'm a fan. So what brought you to ticketing? You could have been in so many different fields. You have the tools. You could have done anything in music, but you could have done anything in any industry. What brought you to ticketing? What
brought me to ticketing, actually, it's interesting, right? For those that don't know, my background was really in management, label, booking. That's where I was. That's where I cut my teeth, so to speak. A group of us that had a record label back in the early. Basically, we launched it in 2008. Decided to start a streaming concert calendar startup where we were, where you could go to a venue website and listen to the bands that were going to be playing at that venue and link to tickets and discover music that way. Or you could listen to the city that you lived in and hear what bands were playing in the coming weeks and buy tickets to them. And we really built it because we had a record label and we were signing live bands and we wanted to sell their tickets. We were trying to get our bands heard. So we built this streaming concert calendar, and it was pre-Spotify in the US. And it's funny because Spotify actually just launched Deli Radio 2 weeks ago, or a month ago now. What the company that we started, they basically just, came out with their own version of, hey, you can now listen to the music that's playing in your city in the coming weeks. And that was really fun to see because it's like, okay, yeah, we did have a good idea. It was just about 15 years ahead of its time. But when I pivoted away from that, for me, it was like, okay, what was exciting to me about that? And what was exciting to me was recognizing that artists, especially working artists, they need to be selling tickets. And that is how we continue to have a live music ecosystem, is if the artists can continue to sell tickets and people continue to show up. And so for me, in terms of what I wanted to contribute to the music industry, it was the ticketing side of things. I was like, okay, that's something that can have real impact. And so for me, it was about, okay, what are the companies that are doing a good job of getting independent artists heard through ticketing? Who's helping sell more tickets, and that's the journey that I took, through Eventbrite and Ticketfly, and now to Tixr. That continues to be my focus.
So do you see that as your career long term? Do you envision this could be the only genre?
You know me, Dan. I'm trying to retire at 50. I only have a few more years to go before I'm living on an island in the Azores.
Another 27, right?
I don't have no problem mentioning that I'm in my 40s.
Never ask a woman her age.
Well, yeah, well, unless she volunteers it. Yeah, I mean that goes back to, when I was looking at what I was going to do after in the middle of COVID, for me it was like, if I'm going to stick with ticketing long term, that's where I really wanted to pick the right platform, right? I had a few other conversations going. I was talking to Yonder. I was like, okay, this is cool, cell phone free schools and concerts. That's awesome. But yeah, it's, for me, let's just say I've struck my claim in ticketing. And I'm here to stay, at least for now.
Now, there's an art to the conference, and I feel like there's some people that are better at it than others. You watch certain people work the room, and they glide. Bill Silva, Wayne Forte, Sara Mertz. You have the ability to walk in a room, and I'm not going to say everybody, because you're talking about 3,000 people in those rooms, but the players in the room, and you talk to everybody, and everybody's always happy to see you. Somehow managed to keep great relationships and a long-term career, which are not easy things to do in this business, especially because a lot of hotheads and egos. And yet people are always glad to see you, and you know how to work a conference. Is there a game plan that you make when you're going into those rooms, or you go to a conference, or do you just kind of wing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love being around people. I love being in the conference environment. I wasn't always that way. I used to be intimidated by it when I was younger, but the way I got around that was to prepare, find out as much as I can about who's going to be there. Do I know them? I'm not afraid to cold email people. I still do it to this day. I don't necessarily need to. I'm at that point in my career where I don't need to be reaching out to some random person that just I see on a list, but if it looks like they have an interesting venue or an interesting festival, I'm gonna send them a cold email and just say, hey, let's get coffee. That's how a lot of great relationships that I have started, over time. So I do think it's important to prepare. It's also important to have a good time and genuinely listen to people. I don't try to talk business at conferences. For me, conferences are about an opportunity to get FaceTime with people that you've maybe interacted with over the phone or Zoom calls. It's about getting to know them as people, figuring out kind of who they are, what makes them tick, what are their values. You can talk about the business if they want to. Like if somebody asks me, I'm happy to tell them. But there's always a follow-up where you can go to town on the technical stuff. For me, it's about the relationship side, because you don't always get an opportunity to be in person with someone. Another thing is I actually have terrible facial recognition. It's an interesting issue to have when you're someone that does what I do, and to try to be successful at these conferences. That is my Achilles heel. And so I have been known to Google image people that I know are going to be in a room. I will Google image them, and I will ask a person next to me, hey, do you see this person in the room? Because I can't do the facial recognition thing until I've really spent a lot of time with somebody. There's even people out there to date that I've had dinner with, I've had coffee with, I've interacted with that I might not recognize immediately in a room. And I'm sure I've offended people because of it. I try to be very open about it, because that can happen. But But yeah, I would say that's my biggest challenge with the conference environment is my facial recognition skills.
That's a surprise to me because I've never really seen that pop up. It seems like you always know everyone in the room and you just kind of glide through it.
Sometimes I'm just faking it till I make it. Usually, 5 minutes into a conversation, somebody says something, and I'm like, "Oh, that's who you are."
I think we have all done our best to try to pull that move off. It's
I did read that Jane Goodall has the same problem, so I'm in good company.
probably not with the apes, though. She probably can tell
Yeah,
them
she
all
knows who
apart.
the apes are, just not the people.
Right. So we've talked about it a little bit, but do you have an overall philosophy that you take into business now?
I'm big on balance. I'm big on making sure that I'm doing the things that I need to do for myself and not just getting wrapped up in working all the time. My philosophy is always be available so that you can have the freedom to do what you want when you want. It's kind of an interesting philosophy because it means that I might be answering phone calls at 8 o'clock at night, but I might also be reading I try not to read the news anymore because it scares me, but Heather, sitting down with a cup of coffee and reading Heather Cox Richardson at 10:30 in the morning after pickleball and taking my time to start the day. I do what works for me. I don't stress. I assume that if it's right, it's going to work, and if it isn't, then it won't. And my blood pressure is much lower as a result.
Hmm. It seems like really healthy life decision. I can't imagine it's easy to stick to that all the time, but
Not always, but I've gotten to a point where I do think it's important to have that balance. I think it's important to spend time with family and friends, and we take our dogs for a walk in the woods every day or on the beach. Like that's important time, and it allows me to be more present with my clients when I am with them. So or my coworkers. So I think it's good. It's good in both ways.
how has your business changed since COVID?
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's been such a roller coaster, right? I mean, coming out of COVID, it was like a free for all, and it was like show here, new festival there, everything's selling out, and then there was kind of this lull where it was like, okay, some things are getting moved around, and we're kind of there was like a pendulum shift, and now I think we're in a place where there's a lot of uncertainty economically, but I do think that the ship is evening out a little bit. Things feel a little bit more status quo to some extent, but I think there continue to just be new challenges that continue to pop up. So I mentioned earlier, I think, with the big shows that are taking a lot of the dollars out of the live event economy, that has definitely been a shift. You asked about platinum pricing early on. I do think that has a little bit to do with it. I also just read a statistic recently that concert ticket prices have gone down by 6% recently. I don't even know where I read that, but I honestly think of that as a good thing because to me that means that again we're equalizing a little bit on the crazy overpaying, hopefully in exchange for people going to more concerts.
Well, I mean, I think there's obviously a hit and miss with a lot of it. I mean, there's always been shows that haven't sold, and there's always been shows that have sold well, and a
For
lot of that
sure.
has to do with what's connecting with the public at that moment, right? It's just
But I think with social media, you're getting more scarcity now. So you're getting more like these big tours are getting bigger and bigger hype. And now everybody internationally feels like they've got to go, and
sure, and some of that has to do with the streaming, right? Because it used to be you had to get on the radio, and now an act can go viral off of their own, off the DSLs. If you put your own music up on servers and it hits the
Yep.
algorithm, right, and people like it, you too could be playing big ballrooms leading into theaters and possibly cut down arenas before you know it.
Yeah.
And what happened with the story of watching like Goose right now of their last 5 years of watching that build, and there's no radio involved with that. That's all organic.
100%. Jam bands did well coming out of COVID, that's for sure.
Same thing with pop, right? It's just like you can look at what's going on with a lot of these young stars that are coming up in those spaces. And, it happens fast. It's like fans find it, something goes viral, and we're all interconnected. So the social media trends tend to just flare much faster than they used to.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
also a lot of dead noise out there because there's so many people releasing music, and there's only so many, it's not like there's any more hours in the day.
Yep. Exactly.
So you're only going to go to so many shows. So I don't know that it's that, there's an arena show or a stadium show out there So people aren't going out to anything else. You're only going to go to so many shows a month.
Exactly.
So
And you only have a certain amount of disposable income, and and there's the online hype, where's the online herd going?
sure, but I mean, we used to have to compete with mega movies opening in the summer, the blockbusters.
That's
And now
true.
people don't go to movie theaters anymore. It's like takes Tom Cruise to jump off an airplane with a burning parachute to get people to go to a movie theater. And
And
even
even
then,
that
it's
only was like that hype only lasted for about a week, I
right.
think.
It's like people are going to wait for it to be on cable, but it's not what it used to be, where it's like, oh, it's opening the same night that the Stones are playing town. What do I do? Like,
Yeah.
you go to the Stones and then you see the movie the next day because it's playing every day for weeks. I love that people had to figure that out. That was always a problem. I don't know. The movie's opening that day. I think the movie's going to be the same movie tomorrow. It's always an interesting
But it's
thing.
the hype. Back
It
to the
is.
hype.
It's the machine.
You want to say that you were there. I
So
saw
where's
that
the business going in your mind? Where do you see the trends taking us over the next 5 years?
I think it's all very interesting right now. I think the DOJ and Ticketmaster is an interesting one to watch. Technology is an interesting one to watch. The ticketing initiatives around, all-in pricing and fees and, secondary markets and speculative ticketing. I mean, there's a lot of conversations that are happening right now that weren't happening 5 years ago. I mean, they were, but not quite to the extent that they are now. I think that AI is obviously going to be a huge game changer. I mean, one of the things that Robert, our CEO, said recently is like, one of my fears is that we're going to get to a place where somebody or a venue could literally just tell ChatGPT to build me a ticketing system that can do X. 10 minutes later, they'll have their own ticketing system. That is a world that we may or may not be heading into. Probably more likely are heading into a world like that. And so I think that everybody's going to have to figure out how to incorporate, AI into their world and figure out how to make, how to utilize it to continue staying on top of things. Because if you don't, you're going to fall behind. Part of why I want to get the hell out of Dodge and retire in 5 years, because I'm like, I don't know that I want to learn all this stuff. That's joking aside, though. I think AI is going to have a big role. I think technology is going to continue to need to stay on top of AI, because honestly, when it comes to bots and fraudulent ticketing and secondary, and I mean, it's just that's all going to just get worse the smarter the robots get. And so, that's part of why I'm really excited about what we've been doing with the, in-product secondary and the NFC ticketing and and rotating QR codes. I mean, all those things are about, keeping the ticket within the single ticketing, the primary ticketing ecosystem, to try to keep out that activity, because that's where the public's going to get scammed. We're seeing people coming to concerts at amphitheaters with, tickets from fake ticketing companies with seats. For a GA show. Like, these aren't even tickets that were bought with a computer through Tixr and then resold on a platform. They're literally just fake. And these poor people, are showing up with them, and that's not great. And so the more the industry can work to not have that be part of the ecosystem, and take all that extra money that's being made by the secondaries and give it to the artists so they can actually survive on the road, and to the promoters who are, taking a chance on the artists, that's, I guess, an idyllic thought of where I'd like the industry to go. But where it definitely is going is to a place of needing to keep ahead of the technology, because it's coming fast and furious. I don't want the music to get drowned out by it.
You made a comment twice now about retiring. Is that really a plan for you in the next 5 years to come to the end?
I think there's a lot of lives to live. And in keeping with life work balance, I'd love to live in a foreign country. I'd love to, travel. I'd love to experience a lot of different things. I don't think I'll ever retire per se, but I have always valued my personal freedom over anything. It's why I'm able to maintain the life work balance I'm able to maintain. I choose to do what I love, so it feels like I'm not working even when I am working, and I choose to do what I want to do when it comes to, taking my personal time and being, I try to live below my means so that I can always feel financially, able, so when I say retire in 5 years, it's more just like I want to continue to have that freedom. And, if that means I'm doing ticketing deals from an island in Portugal or from Thailand, that might mean that I'm no longer, a full-time employee of a company, but now just working with relationships and people from afar. It could look at a lot of different ways, but yeah.
So the metaphorical one day retire, but just less responsibility.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not interested in working until I'm in my like mid to late 60s and then, not be physically able to do all the things I want to do. I want to have adventure and freedom now too.
Nice. Before I let you go, do you have any advice for some of the younger people coming up in the industry?
Yeah, that's always a good one, right? Put yourself out there. It's uncomfortable to go into a conference and volunteer and introduce yourself around to a bunch of people that know each other and feel big and scary and older. But, the more you put yourself out there, the more you learn, the more you figure out how you can bring value. I just had a one-on-one call with one of our summer interns from USC yesterday, and he's like, how can I make your job easier? What can I do to help? Here's and he showed me this spreadsheet. He's like, here's this, competitive analysis I'm doing on, this competitor company. Is this useful to you? Like, what other information should I be gathering, by scraping the internet using AI? I mean, these are the young folks that we're talking about here. That's how you get yourself in the room.
It sounds like a rock star.
Yeah. How can I provide value? It's a philosophy to live by.
From providing value and finding a way to retire as early as possible. Sara Mertz, right here on Promoter 101.
They don't mind coming to work, but that 8-hour wait to go home is a bitch. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
On this month's episode, we have a special segment with the industry veteran Richard Andersen, here for a peek under the hood of Advantage Training.
Promoter 101, we're joined with Richard Andersen, Mr. Kim Badir, as the industry knows him so well, a veteran to venues and massive events. Richard, you're here to talk about your next chapter. What exactly have you gotten yourself into now?
Yeah, well, I've always had a passion for human potential. And while I was involved in partnering to lead buildings and that sort of stuff over the years, I was out, just kicking the tires on really kind of what motivates people and illumination and that sort of stuff, and got interested in various programs. One thing led to another. We started a professional development company about 20 years ago while I was still running venues. And I partnered with the great Russ Simons and Venue Solutions Group about a decade ago and hung a shingle to go out and provide training and professional development for primarily sports, entertainment, hospitality, although we've been in some other really interesting areas. I'll maybe share one with you later on, but yeah, that's been it. It's been fun.
Sports entertainment, or is that sports/entertainment or sports?
Yeah, sports, hospitality, and entertainment. And I like to say, Dan, I've never made less and had more fun. I really love what we're doing now. It's not for somebody that's trying to get rich quick, that's for sure, but that was never the plan.
I think you have to have a number on the back of your hoodie to truly get paid in that sports side of the world.
There was a day I did okay, and I certainly had a lot of fun. But yeah, we've been primarily working with sports teams and venues, any number of things, but primarily with the leadership teams in terms of culture, specifically around team building and individual professional development. And then we've developed a number of frontline programs, guest services, and security, safety sort of things, and branching out. The big news for us is in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching our online platform. So this is a big step for us. It's been several years in the making, and we have a number of early adopters who are already using this, but we've got a program. Our first is called Leading the Crowd, and it's a trained crowd management program. And the idea really is, and hey, you and I see this every day. You turn on your computer and the first thing that comes up is, God forbid, somebody's done something in a crowd somewhere that sometimes is horrible and creates all sorts of unspeakable damage. And the idea really is, how can we minimize and help people be prepared and mitigate these things? And so we created this trained crowd management program off of the National Association of Fire Protection Code 101. That's a trained crowd management program, and it covers any sundry of things specifically designed for frontline staff. So you hire somebody, they don't really know how to use a fire extinguisher. They don't really understand what to be on the lookout for with situational awareness, the kinds of things that could happen, crowd movements, emergency response, all of those sort of things. And so we created an online program. We had a live program. The challenge with it was, Dan, that there's so much turnover, as you know, with frontline staff in hospitality and sports and entertainment venues. You go in and do live training, and 60 days later, you got 30% new employees that never had the training. So we've got this online now, on demand, fairly economical. That's not a reason somebody wouldn't take it. Really robust in terms of what it covers, and the early returns have been terrific. So, yeah, we're excited about it.
The way you say that so quickly, train crowd, and it sounds like something that the Amtrak staff would want, but this is particularly for the live event staff that hosts events, right?
Yeah, but you're not off. I mean, anywhere where there's public gatherings, you want people that are working for you to be more than just a warm body standing in a hallway. And oftentimes, we end up with that because that's all we can really get to, especially post COVID. So this really takes everyone and puts them in a position where they're much more comfortable with understanding the kinds of things they may be faced with. And it's sort of like, hey, the ball's coming to you eventually. Will you be ready? We've all heard that since we were kids. Hey, where are you going to go? The ball's coming to you. Runner on first base, that sort of stuff. And that's what this is. This is about preparation and planning, being ready. So when something does happen, you can react, remember your training, help yourself, help others, and not, go into panic mode where you're overwhelmed and you're paralyzed with fear.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, remembering back to my fast food days when I was in high school trying to earn a buck, I remember we used to have to watch the safety videos and the training videos and what have you, just working at Denny's or Subway or what have you. So it would make sense that the entertainment industry would have these things to train their staff on how to protect the fans best and how to best serve them.
Yeah,
It's like the next logical step.
That's right, and it reaches out into all sorts of things. So many of us are uncomfortable, for example, with how to exactly respond to guests with disabilities. People have all sorts of challenges. I mean, we're all fighting a war. It's just in some cases theirs are more obvious than others, and yet a lot of us are uncomfortable. It's not that we don't want to be helpful. We just have never been really taught how to properly, react and be comfortable with it. So things like that can be put into a really inexpensive modal of online training, and you can go in. What I love about this, particularly you would love this if you were going to do it. You can go in and be on for 20 minutes, and something comes up, and you got to go somewhere else. You click off. 2 days later, you come back. You'll be right back where you were. So 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, on demand, whatever program you've been signed up for. Your employer has a really easy way to monitor who's completed it and who hasn't. And at the end of the day, all of us, if it's done right, want venues to be safer and more enjoyable, so that those are the things we don't want to worry about. We want to go see our favorite band, aka Tedeschi Trucks in my case, or whoever else may be out there, or see our favorite sports team, or whatever, favorite performing arts show, whatever it may be, without fear of what's going on.
All right, so your client is the venue, and the goal is training the venue staff and conveniently and efficiently, so it's available online at any time on demand.
Correct. That's exactly it. And that's what we didn't know, which is, I guess, the case for all of us anytime we start something new, is how long this would take to develop and how much it would cost. And it's always times two, right? Or more. So we've learned a lot in the 2 years. We bought our own learning management system. It's robust. We went out and, these guys were good because their name is Six Red Marbles. Who names themselves six Red Marbles? But our content provider is Six Red Marbles. They were amazing, and so they're our partners as we develop this other content. And we have about a dozen early adopters, NBA teams, NFL, large arenas, performing arts, convention centers that have adopted. And yeah, we're launching over the next couple of weeks, and we'll see where it goes. But we're pretty excited.
Okay, so if somebody wants to check this out, where do they go?
Yeah, so best place is to come to vsgadvantagetraining.com. So that's the easiest place. That's our website, VSG Advantage Training all together. promoter101.com, and there you are. And anything and everything you'd want to know about us right there.
Now, you're a veteran in the business. You've gone all over the world, you and Kim, training venue managers on how to do it better. So some of the best people in the world that do this at the highest level learn from you and Kim on how to do this. So to say the experience is not only there, but there's a long history of you going all over the world already doing this in person. So you're just kicking it up a level and making it more convenient for people to have Richard Andersen on demand.
Yeah, well, I would say the training. Thank you for saying it that way. But the materials, they become much more readily available and exponentially less expensive. The live training's expensive, to fly somebody in and take 3 days of their time, but this is on demand. So let's say you work back in the day at Subway, and then you leave in 3 months, and a new person comes in. They can do that training online without having to bring a live trainer in each time. So it's much more efficient. Now people can make sure somebody's trained before they literally get to wherever they're posted.
I saw some of those Facebook pictures of you and Kim in Australia. It looked like you guys had a little bit of a good time over there training the staff.
We mixed in a kangaroo or a cassowary. There's no doubt. Yeah. No, it's been amazing, right? That's one of the things this industry allows is you work hard, but you also get an opportunity to see and do things that are hard to describe. They're so amazing.
Well, the convenience is obviously there. Clearly, you have the experience of being a veteran in the industry. The teams that have jumped on early are clearly seeing the path, and obviously this is only going to get bigger. Thank you so much for taking time and walking us through this. And it's available online starting when?
It's actually available now. If somebody reached out now, we're just through beta test, and we're launching this week in front of the IAVM meetings in New Orleans, which will be up at full on for the NFL, NBA, NHL seasons upcoming, and here we go.
Okay, so it's out now. All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Andersen, right here on Promoter 101.
All right, thanks, Dan. Thank you.
They intend to live forever. So far, so good. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
The quote of the month, be who you are, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Luke, this month's quote comes to us from the one and only Dr. Seuss.
Teddy Gazelle. He wrote some good things once in a while, Dan.
I didn't know him well enough to call him Teddy. It's nice that you did.
I read a lot of Cat in the Hat and One Thing, Two Thing and the Lorax when I was a kid, Dan. I'm sure you did as well, too. I feel like we all know him as Teddy.
We just saw a new promo for the new Dr. Seuss world that's coming out in the movies. And they have a new Dr. Seuss universe movie coming out that looks really good, where they're combining all of the characters into its own movie. Looks really fun.
Wow. The expanded universe of Dr. Seuss. Could Hollywood find a way to be less original these days? Just making IP everywhere.
I'm excited for it. It was part of the 1,700 promos we saw before Superman started. Literally took 30 minutes of promos to get into the movie, and we got there late.
I was 25 minutes late to Jurassic Park last night, on Friday night, and the movie hadn't started. And I walked into the theater at 6:15 for a 5:50, and they were still on previews. I was like, this is wild.
I've seen 2 movies in the theater in the last month, which is doubling how many movies I've seen since COVID in the theater. And I'm kind of enjoying the experience. Like the F1 movie with Brad Pitt, that whole thing, having the big, massive screen to see what's going on with the filming of that, the way that they did that was incredible. I don't think it'd be the same thing on my phone.
Yeah.
Plus, Brad Pitt's getting old.
Too old to be driving cars, Dan. I think they should have driver's license tests for F1 after 50 years old.
All right, well, I'm going to leave that right there.
They thought they wanted careers. Turns out they just wanted paychecks. Steiny and Luke in the morning on Promoter 101.
Steiny, Luke, that's the end of your yard time for this month. Time to put you boys back in your cells.
All right. Fair enough, Warden Connor. Friends, in the meantime, loved hearing you today. Thanks for listening. If you have something to say about this week's episode or just want to keep in touch with us, send us an email. Drop us a line at steiny@promoter101.net.
Thank you all for listening and taking time out again to hang with us. We'll be back August 28th. And every last Thursday of every month moving forward. Even though we're putting this out a week early, we know it's not the last Thursday. But hey, it's a bonus one. We're up early. You're welcome, people. You're welcome.
Our August episode will feature Neva and Hampshire Auditorium's Andre Perry.
Thanks again for listening. Dan, Connor, and I are wishing you sold-out shows for the month to come.
Cheers.
Call your mother.
Visit the buffet called Promoter 101.